All right, let's bring in one of those political guys. Newt Gingrich was Speaker of the House for a while, and he joins us right now, also author of the book, Trump and the American Future. Mr. Speaker, good morning.
Good morning.
Okay,
it's a pretty wild night.
Yeah, no kidding.
Not over.
It sounds like it's going to be a couple of days before we know about Pennsylvania. But right now in Wisconsin, with 95% of the vote in, Joe Biden is leading by just a little. And then over in Michigan, with 90% of the vote in, Joe Biden is trailing the president by a little. So where are we on this Wednesday morning?
Well, you know, former Attorney General of Nevada, Adam Laxalt, warned 6 or 8 weeks ago that the Democrats in Nevada were setting up the state to steal it. I think anybody, and I was born in Harrisburg, I think anybody who knows much about Pennsylvania history knows that Philadelphia is a center of vote theft, and that the governor and the governor did all he could to maximize the opportunity to steal votes in Pennsylvania. So I think what you're going to see is when you sit around and you watch, you know, all evening long, 6 states in which Trump is ahead, well, you're asked to believe none of that counts, and you watch decisions to make other states where Biden is barely ahead go into his column, giving him a psychological boost, and you just wonder what is going on. And I will say I was particularly happy last night that Susan Collins survived a wave of money,
yes.
And I'm delighted that Senator McConnell is going to be the majority leader of the Senate again. And frankly, from the standpoint of Kevin McCarthy, I think he will have the largest number of women, Black and Latino Republican House members in history, and that they will actually have gained maybe 10 to 15 seats. So you're going to have a very weakened Nancy Pelosi in the Democratic House, a solid Republican majority in the Senate, and now we're in a running fight because, you know, I think from the president's perspective, this looked like a setup to steal the presidency by the Democrats, and is a very deliberate model of, you know, you send in ballots after the vote. They don't have to have a signature. They don't have to have a witness. It's an invitation for vote theft.
I know all of us who do this for a living, our friends are texting, you're texting with your friends, I'm sure, getting on the phone with all these people that have so much knowledge about each of these states. If you look at the bottom of the screen, the last state on there is Georgia, and that's the state that you represented in the House. What do you, when you look at these states at the bottom of the screen, the ones that are still up for grabs, what are you hearing from the experts who are lawmakers from these states, and what do you have to say about Georgia? What do you think will happen?
Well, I mean, the truth is, just, you know, this has been so chaotic that I hesitate to rely on anything. The pollsters I relied on turned out not to be totally accurate. They were less inaccurate than the traditional mainstream pollsters, but nonetheless, they didn't get it all right. In Georgia, the people I trust most believe that in the end that Senator Perdue will be reelected, that the president will carry the state, and that we will go into a runoff, and then Kelly Loeffler will win the runoff in January. That's what the people I trust the most. But frankly, as a historian, this is the most chaotic environment. This reminds me of 1876. This is not like Florida, where you had one county with one particularly bad registrar in 2000. This is nationwide, all sorts of things going on. A media which is unbelievably hostile to Trump. And so if you're a conservative, you look at all this, you cannot, as a conservative, look at this and not feel that the Democrats have done all they could to steal the presidency, and that the legal fight the president's going to wage is exactly right.
The pollster profession is dead. They have to redo how they do this stuff. Everything from 538, and the great Nate Silver, who said Biden's going to win Florida by 2. Oops, that didn't happen. I'm going to spend enough money and finally get our point across to the American people who are going to be receptive to the Democratic message. Hundreds of millions gone and very little gained, and they're in a death match for the presidency. You know, that illegitimate president that didn't really win in 2016? Well, because the Russians hacked in and gave him the victory, well, he replicated it and is on the cusp of doing it again. If you're advising the president on how to handle these contentious situations in North Carolina, Georgia, Pennsylvania, Michigan, and Wisconsin, tactically, not emotionally, what do you advise him?
I advise him, first of all, to ask Senator McConnell and Senator Graham to have the Judiciary Committee in the Senate open up investigations on all these different states. As I said, Adam Laxalt's been begging people to realize how much Nevada was set up to be stolen by the Democrats. Philadelphia is notorious for a place that steals votes. All of those things ought to be looked at, first of all, by the law enforcement side, because those things are crimes. Second, I think he should be prepared, as Jonathan Turley said, and I think his commentary has been, frankly, remarkable all the way through this. The president should be prepared to file suit in every single state, and he ought to go back and look carefully at Arizona. He shouldn't assume automatically that was legitimate. And I think that he has to continue. The other thing I would say is the more he can be presidential and not candidate-like, the more disciplined he can be in going into this, the better off he's going to be, because the country is tired. The country is now frightened. And yet the country, as you said it yourself, the country repudiated a wave of Democratic money.
No question.
I mean, the amount of money spent, for example, I think they spent $3 per vote or per citizen in South Carolina and lost.
Yeah, Newt, we ran our credit card just so I went over my limit, so we're about to lose your shot. Thanks so much for joining us today on this historic day after.
Thank you.